Hey everyone, Rua here. Today I'm going to be going over ideas for job adjustments for 2 more jobs in 2021. We now know that Square Enix are updating all jobs at the same time sometime this year, and since speculating in Theorycrafting is fun, here we are. I should clarify that I'm only going to be addressing jobs I actually know enough about to comment on, so some jobs you won't see featured here or going forward. Okay, on with it. Blue Mage is a job any adjustments made would have to be very careful, otherwise they would make it insanely overpowered. I remember the days of the Blue Mage meta very well, and as much as I like the job, I'm very keen not to return to those days. I've corresponded with a handful of veteran Blue Mages on this matter through the forums, and the overall consensus is that the DPS aspect of the job does not need much attention, rather its support aspect does. Recall that way back in my Blue Mage guide I said that the job's damage ceiling is markedly below that of a heavy DPS. That hasn't changed much, and honestly nor should it. If Blue Mages could match a heavy DPS, and admittedly some can with a Tizona and the 3-bron, while bringing all the utility they can, then why would you ever bring anything else? Let's avoid that and go over what adjustments should be made. The point every player I brainstormed with made was that unbridled learning needs an adjustment in some capacity. As it stands, only 2, maybe 3 spells out of the 18 behind the ability are ever used. Either certain spells should not be behind it, should be powered up to make them worth using, or the reuse timer of the ability itself should be reduced. Far as I see it, most spells restricted by unbridled learning should be restricted given their effects. But some spells should be added to its selection, and the reuse timer of the ability should be at least halved so it sees more use than just Mighty Guard or Kacharian Verve. Unbridled learning is just one part of what is admittedly a large but very careful overhaul of the job, and keep in mind any overhaul would need to address its support and utility capabilities. I would start by radically changing Group 2 of a Blue Mage's merit categories. Convergence and especially Diffusion should not be meritable abilities. A Blue Mage should learn both at level 75 without the need to merit them. I would replace their categories with 2 effects, Blue Magic Duration and Blue Magic Effect. Blue Magic Duration would apply to both enhancing and enfeebling spells, ideal for a Blue Mage aiming to optimize their utility. Blue Magic Effect on the other hand would be suited for a Blue Mage looking to push their damage output as far as they can, increasing the weapon skill's secondary attribute modifier, or WSC, of all spells that have them. The relic armor which previously enhanced convergence and diffusion would instead enhance these 2 effects. The player would need to change their merits as needs must, or merit both if the limit itself is raised. I would also reduce the reuse timers of 3 abilities, Unbridled Learning, Diffusion and Convergence. Unbridled Learning's 5-minute reuse timer is just far too prohibitive to the extent that you practically never see a Blue Mage use anything other than Mighty Guard or Kacharian Verve. It's not that the other spells behind the ability are bad, it's just that those 2 are too good in comparison, and when you have to decide what will give the best return, then as it stands it's really a no-brainer. I would lower the reuse timer to 2 minutes, more than halving it. It would also line up nicely with Burst and Chain Affinity. Diffusion's 10-minute reuse timer puts Blue Mages in an even worse position as it stands, forcing them to use both it and Unbridled Learning on one of 2 spells of a possible 18. I would halve its reuse timer to 5 minutes. Taking into account the Blue Magic Duration merits, this would allow a Blue Mage to use more than just those 2 spells. Convergence also having its timer halved would give Blue Mages another means of putting out strong magic damage if Burst Affinity is down, or otherwise give it the means of stacking both for an extremely powerful burst. Several existing Blue Magic spells need adjustments, all of them high-end and all of them behind Unbridled Learning. I understand why the AoE denial spells have wacky WSC modifiers, to not make them too powerful in addition to their very potent effects. Spectral Flow is the outlier here, but it makes sense since it comes from Ice Elementals. However, when you're using Unbridled Learning, the elemental spells you could use should give you more bang for your buck. This is why I would make the WSC modifier for all the elemental spells behind Unbridled Learning Intelligence. These spells would hit harder than the ones that can be freely cast, especially considering that their casting is limited. I'm not sure what the developers were thinking when they made Pyrrhic Bulwark only negate one incoming physical attack, while a Hydra's version gives it the same effect for 30 seconds, but that needs addressing. Here's a simple solution. Pyrrhic Bulwark should give a maximum of 12 negated physical attacks. Simply make it operate off the same formula used for another blue magic spell, Occultation. The other spell adjustments involve taking 4 spells off of Unbridled Learning entirely: Tourbillon, Bilge Storm, Blood Rake and Absolute Terror. Sounds a bit much? Alright, hear me out. Tourbillon inflicts a heavy defense down on everything around the Blue Mage, 33%, but its potency is actually matched by a Beastmaster with Corrosive Ooze, an effect not subject to magic accuracy checks. It will always land no matter what. Bilge Storm is a similar story. The 25% attack, defense and accuracy down would be a neat tool if it could be freely cast, but again, a Beastmaster has them beat, and thoroughly, by Corrosive Ooze, since it inflicts both defense and attack down of 33%. If the current trend of nerfing debuff Geomancy is going to continue, then Blue Mage being able to step into the role of AoE debuffing, something which would set it apart from Red Mage incidentally, is something to consider. Blood Rake being behind Unbridled Learning is something I never understood. Finally, we have Absolute Terror. Once again, Beastmaster can do this better with Editorial. I have no issue with taking Absolute Terror off of Unbridled Learning, but I would increase its recast time to prevent abuse. This brings me to the new spells Blue Mage should get. There are still some families spells have not been gleaned from, and it's high time they were. Dark Star would be a spell used when you wanted to absolutely shatter the defenses of everything around the party. Learn from the Xylent Dragons, this spell is a throwback to Final Fantasy VI, where Strago learned a similar lore spell under the name Quasar. Dark Star would be the single strongest defense and magic defense down debuff outside Geomancer, but knowing when to use it would be crucial. Full Bloom would be learned from Belladonna's. It would restore HP increasing with Cure Potency equipment, and give a powerful stone skin equal to double the HP it restored. It might not see much use, but it is something a Blue Mage could use with diffusion and potentially save the day. Psyche Absorption, the source of many sandworm nightmares, would be the answer to a Blue Mage not having gain spells like a Red Mage. Again, might not see much use, but it would be an alternative if the Blue Mage was getting a lot of support buffs and just needed to increase its own attributes to get more out of them. Incense Pummel would be the strongest physical blue magic spell. Learn from Yistargs and scaling damage with TP. With Chain Affinity and a Flux, this spell would hit really hard if all of its hits connect. It would also finally give Blue Mage a powerful blunt based attack. It's not had one of those for a while, come to think of it. Kanugi Collapse would be another spell Blue Mages could use in concert with, or as a stand-in for a Geomancer or Red Mage. It would give the job an AoE Earth Elemental spell, which could do some decent damage, but more importantly, inflict accuracy and magic accuracy down. Very situational, but having the options available is what Blue Mage is all about at its core. Finally, Scintillant Lance. Learned from Alicorns, this would be the strongest light elemental attack in the game. It would hit extremely hard and would be an easy replacement for Rail Cannon, which is unpredictable to say the least. The physical DPS aspect of Blue Mage is roughly where it needs to be. All it needs is help in its utility, which is really the purpose of the job. Now that it seems Geomancy nerfs are going to be a thing going forward, having more jobs with the means of debuffing in a similar manner would be a welcome adjustment to everyone. A Blue Mage's utility and adaptability means it could step into this role very easily. It would reward highly competent players who could use their adaptability to respond to any given situation. Scholar has really become a favourite job of mine. There's even a portrait of my character in its Arbitel attire. Much like Blue Mage, one aspect of the job is already fully realised in its dark arts capabilities. Scholar is not meant for the same massive burst numbers of a Black Mage. It can do very respectable damage in that regard, but it's still designed for battles of attrition through its Helix spells, and it does this very well while supporting other spellcasters while in this mode. Oh, on that note, no, I have absolutely no idea how to fix Black Mage. It would take the combined intellects of Albert Einstein, Dr. House and Lieutenant Commander Data to even begin contemplating that. No, what needs very minor addressing are aspects of a scholar's light arts capabilities. As it stands, a pro scholar is a very effective healer and can support its party members in ways that often go unnoticed. But when they are noticed, players tend to suddenly realize the merits of bringing a scholar as a viable alternative to White Mage. Recently, I've been using Scholar as a healer in Odyssey with little to no hassle, even not having to cast a single cure spell in 3 separate runs. What often throws players off Scholar is that its healing method is juxtaposed to White Mage's, in that it is very much a proactive healer rather than a reactive one, whereas a White Mage's reactive capabilities are far superior to its proactive ones. A Scholar needs to be able to read a situation and plan ahead with stratagems already activated and prepared. Even veteran White Mages coming to the job find this very difficult. Any adjustments would emphasize this difference and make it easier for a new player to the job. The first adjustment I would make would be to Rapture. In its current form, Rapture increases cure potency and is factored in after all of the cure potency calculations have taken place. The thing is, a Scholar can already cast Cure 4s for more than enough to fully heal most jobs thanks to Aurora Storm 2, and by having the gear options to easily hit the Cure Potency 2 cap. This makes Rapture a pretty pointless stratagem, so I would like to put it to another use. I would change the effect of Rapture to instead increase the effect of the next enhancing magic spell the Scholar casts. The potency increase would mirror Ebullience, making it an increase of 20%, which increases to 35% with the Arbitell Bonnet. Rapture would work on every enhancing magic spell a Scholar has. It would give the job slightly stronger bar spells while not quite matching White Mage, give it the ability to AoE a powerful stone skin in preparation for expected incoming heavy damage. The only spell that gives me some reservations about this change is Embrava, which when stacked with regen already makes it so a party member literally has to go out of their way to die. Something I would definitely not let Rapture work in concert with is Embolden. If a Rune Fencer got a Raptured, Perpetuanced and Emboldened Phalanx, then they would be pretty much unkillable. As far as spell adjustments go, I would only change 3. The 2 Animus spells need to have their effects scale with enhancing magic skill, capping out at minus 30 enmity on Animus Minuo and plus 30 enmity on Animus Orgio. This way, even with Rapture, Minuo is not capping the minus enmity value alone, and it gives Paladin, Rune Fencer and Ninja a stronger enmity bonus option than the one they have, if the Scholar can afford the 3 stratagems to provide it. The third and final spell which needs to scale with enhancing magic skill is Adoloquium. The 10 TP per tick regain is a pitiful amount, decent for when between battles in an event like Odyssey, but some more potency would make it more noticeable in an actual battle. I would have it scaled to 30 TP per tick, meaning that Rapture would take it to 40 per tick, quadrupling its value. Adoloquium being buffed like this would work well with the jobs on the new Gletti's armor set and its regain, and would make the Vim Torque a very powerful TP option for the jobs on it, since a Scholar's regen would more than cancel out the penalty to activate the effect. The final adjustment I would make to Scholar would be to drastically increase the effect of its Storm Surge trait, making it a plus 5 to the aligned attribute with each merit level for a maximum of plus 25 of an attribute, matching a White Mage's boost spells, but stacking with them if both jobs are in the party. These adjustments were thought of to play to a Scholar's strengths as being a high skill healer, which rewards proactive players who can anticipate how a battle might unfold and be ready to counter sudden changes, much like how a military tactician should operate. Scholars should not be able to remove and defend against status ailments in the same manner a White Mage can. That is just not the design of the job. It should not be encroaching on what makes White Mage great. It could use the means of amplifying its signature spells and strengthening its proactive defensive measures, something to give new players more breathing space, and to make the job even more universally viable to be used in concert with other jobs than it already is. That's the end of this second entry. I've got a few more ideas for other jobs, but for now I think I should get back to things I really should have done a while ago. Actually, come to think of it, it's panned out quite well in that the recent gear added with Odyssey has been such a game changer for the job. See you next time for Paladin Guide Part 2.